although there were warnings that I frankly wasn't aware of, although there were warnings, I think our preparation...
City of Angels, the home of Hollywood glamour, the site of the 2028 Olympics, is telling many of its citizens, just flee, because it does not have the power or the water that they need to stay safe. But the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is now finally back from Ghana. Joe Biden sent her there for the inaugural. Like, who gives a crap? Why is the LA mayor going to Ghana for some political event? What in the actual...
Megyn Kelly just detonated a truth bomb so explosive that Karen Bass might still be searching for the nearest escape route. One moment, Bass was preaching about transparency like a saint on a soapbox. The next, she was performing mental gymnastics so wild even Simone Biles would have asked for a slow-motion replay. So, what exactly did Karen get caught up in this time? Let's just say the cameras were rolling, the receipts were airtight, and Megyn wasn't buying an ounce of spin. Strap in, this isn't your average political stumble. It's a full-blown plot twist with a side of drama.
Something. The warnings about these Santa Ana winds being worse than normal and bringing a grave threat were all over the place. You look back at the LA Times now, for days prior to this event, they were jumping up and down saying, this actually could get really bad. And she's over there in Ghana for this ceremonial. What? Why? Get your ass back home.
If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it helps way more than you think. Now, picture this. Karen Bass, out there thinking it's just another routine day, smiling for the cameras, delivering polished sound bites, and pretending Los Angeles isn't turning into one giant open-air escape room. But then, in walks Megyn Kelly, armed not with talking points, but with iced coffee in one hand, a stack of receipts in the other, and that trademark smirk that usually signals someone's political downfall is imminent. And when she started talking, let's just say, the roast was 5 stars, no chaser.
Fleeing Texas in the middle of a deadly crisis is part of a larger pattern of the GOP abandoning folks in crisis. We need to build a movement to kick them all out. Well, how'd that one go, madam? Is that part of your pattern on your team to abandon folks during a crisis? I mean, I realize you sent a couple of tweets, but in this kind of situation, people like to see and hear from their leaders. And you were in Ghana enjoying yourself.
It all began with something small, one of those seemingly harmless political moments that usually slide under the radar. The kind where a politician shrugs and thinks, no one's gonna catch that. But someone always does. Especially when Megyn Kelly's radar lights up like a metal detector over buried treasure. Within moments, that polished, camera-ready version of Karen Bass started to glitch, the calm, confident exterior flickering like a Wi-Fi signal in the middle of a thunderstorm. Something was off, and everyone could feel it.
I just was saddened by it, honestly, because I think that response was beneath him. And he was in my office a couple of weeks ago. We're working on something. We're working on a couple of things together. But I think that he is sad and bitter. And I think that it is really sad to exploit. You guys laughing about that? I feel like it's exploiting tragedy. It's exploiting grief. And this is when the city needs to...
The irony is almost poetic. She spent years crafting this image of herself as the calm in the chaos, the rational voice guiding Los Angeles through the storm. The unshakable mayor with her finger firmly on the city's pulse. But now that pulse seems faint, maybe even flatlining beneath a mountain of excuses, tangled explanations, and one painfully inconvenient revelation. The facade of composure? Cracking. The voice of reason? Suddenly, not so reasonable after all.
Got ICE and Tom Homan's team trying to clean up MacArthur Park. Isn't this your home state, Cannon? And your lovely mayor, Karen Bass, goes out there not to say, thank you, it's riddled with MS-13. Literally no children ever play here because they could get shot. It's become a place where illegal immigrants go to get false IDs and try not to get killed by MS-13. She calls up the head of CPB out there and says, get out. Don't come here. we don't want you. In response to which that guy says, I don't work.
When Megyn Kelly starts digging, she doesn't just dig, she excavates. Archaeologists could take lessons from her precision. She doesn't stop at the surface headlines or the polished press clips. She drills straight down to the buried bones, the internal memos, the conveniently forgotten footage tucked 3 PR statements deep. And this time, what she uncovered is something Karen Bass probably hoped would stay buried, not just under the rug, but 6 feet beneath it. This wasn't one of those innocent political oops moments, the kind that can be explained away with a nervous laugh and a quick tweet. No, this was the kind of revelation that makes you pause, squint, and ask, did she really think no one would notice? While Los Angeles was busy drowning in potholes, policy blunders, and a growing sense of déjà vu, Karen was apparently focused on juggling optics. The kind of optics that look fine from a distance until Megyn zooms in and the whole picture starts to unravel. 1 minute, Karen's preaching about integrity and accountability. The next, her carefully crafted PR facade shatters faster than a phone screen in a blender. And behind the cracks? A storyline so blatant it could have been rejected from a Hollywood script for being too on the nose. The best part? She tried to contain it, she tried. But when Megyn Kelly locks on, no amount of context or crisis management spin can bury the truth again.
Finally holds a presser, and it was a complete disaster. First of all, before I get to the truly disastrous part, listen to her describing herself. Like, I basically got on the back of Superman to come home. Take a listen to Sot 2.
I've been in constant contact with our fire commanders, with county, state, and federal officials. I took the fastest route back, which included being on a military plane, which facilitated our communications. So I was able to be on the phone the entire time of the flight.
Because once the audience saw it, they saw it. The smirk, the double take, that split-second pause that screamed, wait, did she just admit that? It was all caught in glorious HD, and social media wasted zero time turning it into a full-blown spectacle. You could almost hear the collective gasp ripple through the digital peanut gallery as clips spread faster than a celebrity apology after an awards show meltdown. Suddenly, everyone was an investigator. People who hadn't cared about city politics since dial-up internet were now rewinding footage, analyzing facial expressions, and dissecting tone like it was the season finale of a Netflix true crime series. Karen Bass, the case of the missing accountability. Because honestly, there's nothing quite like getting exposed on national television for the very thing you've spent years preaching against. It's like a fitness guru being caught double-fisting cheeseburgers mid-marathon. You can't jog that off. And then came the defenders, charging in like knights in shiny denial. She's misunderstood, they insisted. It's not what it looks like. Except, it was exactly what it looked like. And no amount of spin could blur that frame.
Root home. Are we supposed to be giving credit for the fact that she didn't book too many layovers? This is an absurd person. And you don't have to take my word for it in response to that inanity you just heard. Listen to the mayor in her time of crisis, her city's time of massive crisis, in directing people where to go if they need information, which they do because their houses are burning and their family members in at least 5 cases are dying. Listen to this.
You could pause that video at any frame and still catch that look, the unmistakable flicker of realization politicians get when their story starts drifting out of sync with their body language. It's that half-second freeze where confidence turns into calculation, and every blink feels like a silent confession. Megyn Kelly's breakdown wasn't just sharp, it was surgical. She didn't rant, she didn't perform, she operated. Clean, precise, and relentless. No fluff, no theatrics, just a scalpel made of facts and that calm, cutting tone that says, you can try to spin this, but good luck keeping up. And the best part? She didn't need to add drama. The absurdity wrote its own script. Because only in politics can someone get caught red-handed and then argue it's just bad lighting. Karen's explanations tangled like headphone wires in a pocket, every sentence looping back on itself, every excuse louder than the last. It was like watching a GPS lose signal mid-drive, recalculating integrity. Please make a U-turn. Still, there's something almost poetic about the routine. The politician gets caught, denies everything, blames context, and promises to do better. It's clockwork. But this time, Megyn didn't let the clock run out. She peeled back every layer until only raw, unfiltered discomfort remained.
Karen Bass was, she's in this spirited competition with Brandon Johnson, who can be the most ineffective mayor. It's impressive, really.
Yeah,
in its way. And
Dark horse coming up the third position in the lane, possible Zoran Mamdani. He's running.
The Big Apple. She was a member of the House for a long time and kind of generally well-liked, pleasant person, not considered a heavyweight. And when she ran for mayor, I remember being surprised. She had no executive authority. I didn't think she'd win.
The reactions were absolutely priceless. Commentators, analysts, even late-night hosts started circling like vultures at an all-you-can-eat buffet of political chaos. Every clip was replayed, slowed down, zoomed in, and analyzed frame by frame like it was evidence in a national scandal. Every inconsistency magnified, every damage control attempt dissected in glorious high definition. And there was Karen standing in the middle of it all, looking like someone trying to hold a press conference in quicksand. Every sentence she uttered only seemed to pull her deeper. Of course, she tried to pivot, the oldest trick in the playbook. She started talking about her record, her accomplishments, her deep love for the people. It was classic crisis choreography. When the headlines catch fire, distract the crowd with heartstrings. But no amount of look over there could compete with Megyn Kelly's laser focus. Once Megyn locks that spotlight on you, it doesn't blink, it doesn't fade, it burns until the story is stripped bare. You'd think by now politicians would know better than to spar with a journalist who lives for contradictions, especially one who can make the truth sound both hilarious and horrifying in the same breath. Megyn laid out the facts with surgical calm, and somehow the audience found themselves laughing and cringing at once. This wasn't just commentary, it was theater, a masterclass in dismantling a public image without ever raising her voice.
They literally are killing your citizens and getting people addicted to drugs, like innocent Americans. And you're on the side of the dog poop. Like somebody who came through and said, I'm going to clean up all the dog poop so the children can play and they don't have to deal with it anymore. And the mayor came out and said, the dog poop stays. Step away. This is the position she's taking. And it's not just her. You're right. Zoran Mamdani, who is likely to be our next mayor in New York City, is having this clash right now with the sitting mayor, Eric Adams, where Mamdani is saying, I will not work with ICE. I will not funnel any illegals to ICE's way, even if there is a federal detainer.
At one point, even Karen's most loyal supporters were performing mental gymnastics that deserved Olympic commentary. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. Maybe Megyn twisted her words. Maybe this is all just a distraction. But the thing about solid evidence, it doesn't need interpretation. It speaks for itself, loud and clear, like a truth that's been waiting far too long to be heard. And then came the follow-up interview, the unintentional sequel nobody asked for. Karen walked in like nothing happened, armed with that polished, practiced smile politicians wear like armor. She tried to pivot, to reframe, to charm her way through it, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a sound bite. Every word she spoke hung in the air under a silent chorus of "We've seen the footage." Each deflection only made the cracks in her composure more visible. It wasn't just politics anymore, it was performance art. Political theater meets reality TV, except this time the confessionals were live and the audience wasn't buying the edit. By midweek, the internet had turned it into a cultural event, memes, remixes, reaction clips, the whole digital circus. The city collectively laughed and said, "We were bored. Thanks for the plot twist." But beneath the humor, something shifted. The questions got sharper, heavier, the kind that linger long after the cameras stop rolling.
And Trump picks a fight with Mayor Karen Bass, which was absolutely beautiful. This soundbite's a little long, but watch it play out. They're arguing over how long it's going to take to clean up the fire damage in places like the Pacific Palisades, so people can get back on their properties and get what might still be there, which there is in some cases some debris that's salvageable, see the damage, survey what's left so they can figure out their next move. None of that's being allowed. Watch.
But we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe. We want you to be back in your homes immediately.
That's the thing about getting exposed. It doesn't just fade when the news cycle resets. It lingers. It sticks to you like a bad tattoo of your own campaign slogan, impossible to cover, impossible to forget. What Megyn Kelly delivered wasn't humiliation, it was accountability. Served cold, clean, and with the precision of someone who knows that irony is often the sharpest scalpel. She didn't shout. She didn't grandstand. She simply laid out the facts and let silence do the heavy lifting. And the facts? They were brutal. Karen's reaction told the story better than any headline could. That tight, controlled smile, the cautious tone, the desperate grip on a narrative that had already sprinted out the door. You could almost see her realizing mid-sentence that the spin wasn't spinning anymore. Because once people see behind the curtain, you can't just yank it shut and pretend the wizard's still in charge. And somewhere in the chaos of damage control and late-night strategy calls, you could practically hear the collective exhale from her campaign office, that mix of disbelief and dread. In an age where politicians serve half-truths with a garnish of denial, Megyn served a 5-course meal of reality, and the audience devoured every bite. Karen Bass might recover, politicians always do. But this one's going to leave a mark. Every speech about honesty, every interview about transparency will carry an invisible subtitle.
To be the mayor of Los Angeles, she is too stupid to be in public office. You failed, madam. You failed. You failed to prepare for the crisis. And then when your country and your city needed you, what did you do? Oh, you took the fastest route home with no layovers on a military plane? Great. And when you got there, you were too dumb to realize that URL was a placeholder and then to actually look to your team and say, what is the URL? What is the web address? You are a moron. And I am sorry for our friends in Los Angeles who don't deserve this. I realize they voted for this woman, but I'm going to assume they thought she had 2 nickels to rub together in between her ears.
The leader who once promised clarity ended up tangled in her own web of contradictions. And the journalist who called her out? She didn't even have to break a sweat. Because, in the end, this wasn't just about Karen Bass being exposed, it was about the pattern. The never-ending political cycle of power, denial, exposure, and spin. Megyn Kelly just happened to be the one holding up the mirror this time. And that reflection, it wasn't pretty. What unfolded wasn't mere commentary, it was a reminder carved in real time. No matter how polished the image, how rehearsed the talking points, or how carefully the narrative is managed, the truth always finds its way out. Sometimes it slips quietly through the cracks. Sometimes it crashes through the door. And sometimes it walks right into a studio, sits across from Megyn Kelly, and calmly says, "Good evening." Karen will survive the scandal. They always do. But credibility? That's a harder rebuild. Maybe what she needs now is a full system update. Karen Bass 2.0, now with extra accountability. It's strange, almost poetic, how predictable the chaos of politics can be. There's always that one moment when the mask slips, the truth spills, and everyone, even the most loyal supporters, can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Because Megyn didn't destroy Karen Bass. She simply let Karen's own contradictions do the heavy lifting.
Is these mealy-mouthed, kale-eating, broccoli-pushing, Birkstock, whatever, wearing politicians who can't find another person fast enough to blame. My absolute favorite, though, is the fire chief. She's growing on me. When she's not focusing on her lesbianism, she's actually quite fierce. She is not going down without bringing Mayor Karen Bass with her. And who could...
And honestly, that's the most satisfying kind of exposure, the kind that doesn't need fireworks, just the quiet satisfaction of truth doing its own damage. By the time the headlines cooled, Karen Bass had already entered the classic redemption arc. You know the phase, the lessons learned tour every politician embarks on after getting caught with their hand in the narrative jar. Suddenly, she was all about transparency again, standing at press conferences with the same nervous enthusiasm as a student retaking an exam they swore they'd aced the first time. The public nodded along, polite but detached. You could feel it in the room, that collective, unspoken, we've seen this movie before. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly had already moved on, her signature smirk doing the talking. No need for a victory lap. The replay button and the internet would handle that just fine. Karen kept smiling, shaking hands, talking about rebuilding trust, but that smirk Megyn left behind? It lingered like a watermark on every photo op. A silent reminder whispering, remember the receipts. Because in a city obsessed with selling perfection, the real entertainment begins when someone trips over their own PR script. Megyn didn't just call her out, she made a point. That no slogan, no spin, and no amount of glossy messaging can outshine the truth, especially when it's caught on camera. And in the grand circus of politics, that's the most brutal punchline of all.